Tariffs have obviously been the big talk, since basically January. And there was a tariff that was announced the other day that kind of caught my attention. That would be the 50% tariff on copper. And I thought, well, wait a second. That's probably going to cause some reaction in the market. Well, in order to figure out exactly what that's going to cause, we turn to financial strategist and policy expert Steve Cotton with us this afternoon. Steve, always great to have you with us, my friend. How you doing?
Thank you, Mark. Doing great today and honored to talk with you.
So 50% tariff on copper. Is this finally going to make the penny have some value? Is that what we're looking at here?
Well, you probably have forgotten that Trump has decided to phase out the penny.
That's right.
But I think this, there are tariffs and then there are tariffs.
Right.
If they raise tariff on Irish whiskey and I go to the liquor store and my Irish whiskey is 10 times more expensive than it used to be, then I can switch to Kentucky whiskey. But copper is a different matter. We import, if you can believe this, 50% of the demand for copper in the U.S. we have to import. So what I think Trump is focusing on is three basic industries that are critical to our national security: copper, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors.
Right.
And this is the third leg of that stool, and this is going to drive up prices.
Okay, so what are we expecting, or what should we expect to see prices start to move up on?
Well, in fact, they've already started moving up. We had about a 13.12% jump in copper prices right before the tariffs were announced, and then they've jumped up another 2.62% since the announcement. And our problem is we can't produce our way out of a copper shortage or demand for copper in this country. Our mines don't have the capacity, and it may take us to 2027 or 2028 before we can raise U.S. domestic copper production up to the levels to meet demand.
Right.
So in the meantime, we're still going to have to import, and we're importing from Chile, from Canada, from Zambia in Africa, and even Mongolia is developing copper mines. And, of course, Peru exports copper as well. So does Russia, as a matter of fact. So we are going to continue to have to import from a variety of countries around the world, and we're not going to be able to ramp up U.S. domestic production fast enough to offset these tariffs.
So, Steve, do you think this is going to be one of those things where if, say, one of these copper-producing countries work out a trade deal with Trump, do you think that country will be, that 50% tariff would be alleviated from that country, assuming
Absolutely.
that they? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely, I do. I think the president sees this as a critical national security issue, and he's right about that. For us to have neglected this space and let the demand for copper rise, the imports of copper to rise to 50%. Is insane, and it's very contrary to our national security interests. So he's addressing a problem that's been long in coming, but there is going to be some short-term pain, I think.
Right.
I think we're going to feel it by home builders. Homes use a lot of copper.
Right. I'm assuming like the HVAC industry is probably going to be one of those industries that's going to see a jump in prices for stuff as well.
Yes. And, you hear these stories of people ripping off and stealing air compressors, air conditioning compressors outside of homes, outside of businesses. It's for the copper. This is going to accelerate that trend, I'm afraid. And I don't think there's a short-term solution unless countries like Chile and Canada will lower their tariffs.
Right.
That would help.
So do you think this is going to bring some folks to the table?
Well, it'll sure get their attention. It remains to be seen what the effect will be. I think we're going to end up paying a lot more for copper in the short run, maybe not so much in the longer term, but I think in the short run, this is going to make houses more expensive, defense products more expensive, all of that, and that's not going to be positive.
I would imagine, and just guessing here, that the next time someone calls the cable company, it's probably going to jack their prices up too because of how much copper they use in those coax cables. So it's all these just these little things that we don't think about, right?
Well, that's right. You're exactly right. We use copper in so many things, just like petroleum products used in so many things. And when you have steep price increases in those kinds of things, there's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
But there's the near-term effect and the longer-term effect. I don't think we know the longer-term effect yet, but the near-term effect is going to be price hikes.
Yeah. Well, and and that really shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. I mean, that's kind of what we're seeing, unfortunately. The president says it's August 1st is the deadline. So we're looking at about 21 days or so before this thing goes into effect. I would say 21 days is ample enough time for someone to hammer out a new trade deal. Yeah.
Not necessarily, because you've got you've got a limited number of trade negotiators able to talk to these countries. You've got a large number of countries still that are trying to formulate their negotiating position. Mm-hmm. To negotiate these trade agreements, which can be very complex, it can take 30 to 60 to 90 days to really finalize a deal. Mm-hmm. What we have seen, though, is Trump has pushed back that deadline a couple of times, and I think he's got to be careful about continuing to do that lest they not take him seriously.
Right.
But the president is a negotiator. He wants to focus on outcomes. So August 1st, is that a hard deadline? Hard to see. We don't know yet. Mm-hmm. But if I were a country coming to the table, I would take it seriously.
Steve, one of the trade partners great trade partners, I would argue that we have, and one of our great allies is Japan. This situation with the rice shortage in Japan and them refusing to buy American rice because their rice lobby is so hardcore in Japan, this just cracks me up. I mean, they are literally at a rice shortage in Japan, and yet they will not, by any circumstances, purchase rice from the U.S. because of their rice lobby. Do we have any sectors or any industries like that in America that's kind of that works that same way?
Well, this points out a major issue that I focused on for 6 months that the news media has rarely talked about, and that is, what is the capacity in all of our trading partners for them to force their domestic constituencies that they're trying to protect? What is their capacity to push those constituencies? What is going to be their capacity to lower barriers, lower tariffs? Because those barriers and those tariffs are intentionally designed to protect domestic constituencies. Yes, there are areas of our economy where they're similar. Cattle in Texas, and there's corn in Iowa. There are lots of areas where we want to protect our farmers and our agriculture people, for example. But I think the factor that has been underestimated is these countries' cultural tendencies and their political ability or need to protect these constituencies. And that's a factor, frankly, I don't think anybody's factored in. Some of these trade deals may be a lot more difficult than would appear on the surface.
Right.
And Japan is a great example of that.
I know the president has sent out, I believe it was, the first number I heard was 12. Then we heard it was almost 100. Basically 100 of these letters to other countries saying, take it or leave it. This is where we're at. And it seems like he's dead serious about that. I'm just kind of wondering, is that another kind of force somebody to the table once they see what the number is type move?
Well, I think there are two dynamics here. The first dynamic is, how are they going to perceive this and don't like being bullied? Mm-hmm. The second reality, though, the second dynamic is, okay, once we get over our hurt feelings and our distaste for being bullied, let's look at the numbers and let's come to an agreement that helps both countries. I think the latter dynamic will prevail in the long run. May get some back in the short run.
Yeah. The market had a pretty decent day today by the looks of things. The Dow Jones was up 192 points. The S&P and the NASDAQ both closed at record highs. Do you think we're seeing sort of a calm down in some of the volatility and some of the big swings that we were seeing, 3 months ago?
Well, I do, and the reason is because we finally passed the president's big, beautiful bill which that was the technical name of it. But it codifies, it reauthorizes the Trump tax cuts of 2017, creates certainty. Markets hate uncertainty. And when the House and the Senate, and he finally signed that bill, we took away a lot of the uncertainty that had the markets rattled.
Right.
He's expanded no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, $6,000 tax deduction for seniors living on Social Security benefits. There are other things that they did in the tax code. A major emphasis on new shipbuilding. Mm-hmm. There's a lot in the bill that is going to be stimulative, and I think the markets have been more confident mm-hmm. and less volatile because of that.
Manufacturing has always, I shouldn't say has always, in recent times, manufacturing seems like we are at a big deficit when it comes to that. We do so little manufacturing anymore, or at least it seems that way. The president has a desire to bring back as much manufacturing as possible. I guess my question to you, Steve, is it possible to bring manufacturing back to the level in America that it once was, given the cost of labor?
Well, that's a great question. I think the jury is out on that. I think the president and his cabinet are going to try very diligently to do that and to do it quickly. But as you would guess, building plants and bringing manufacturing capacity back to the United States is not quick. And we have the complication. We have environmental regulations that other countries don't have. We have labor regulations and minimum wage rates that other countries don't have. We have some things that enhance people's quality of life that we're not really going to want to give up on. But at the same time, it is more expensive to operate in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I think if that can be addressed in some way, we can bring back manufacturing more quickly. But It's not going to be fast, and it's not going to be overnight.
My brother is in the pallet business. He owns a pallet company. And, for them, labor not really the issue per se. They can find people to do the job. Their big issue is the actual lumber itself. This is a big thing when it comes to home building. This is a big thing when it comes to the pallet industry. Anything that involves wood, I mean, the cost on that stuff has really skyrocketed. A lot of that due to the Canadian tariffs. Do we see that market kind of coming back into a better level at any point in time? Is it going to take really kind of hammering some of those deals out with Canada on lumber prices?
I think in the end, countries are going to want to arrive at a trade agreement that is mutually beneficial. And frankly, for 40 years, most countries' trade agreements have been very punitive toward the United States.
Right.
And one president after other has really neglected fighting for the American industries and the American worker. Trump is now doing that, and it's long overdue. It needs to be done, but I think it's going to take a while to sort out what the actual impact is. In the long run, I'm optimistic that most countries, China may be an outlier for a while, but most countries are going to want to trade with the United States. We're the biggest market in the world. There's more money for them to be made here, right. And I think people will come together, but it may take a little longer than we think.
There we go, and that is exactly why we have him on with us. He is Steve Cotton, financial strategist and policy expert. Steve, always great to catch up with you, my friend. We will look forward to catching up with you again here real soon.
Thank you, Mark, and hello to everybody in the Carolinas.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Have a great one.